So you watched our first video on how to become a better eBay buyer and user, but today we have more advanced tips, 5 more for you.
Forget sniping auctions, man. We are going to turn you into a finely tuned auction killing machine. I am giving you all of my pro tips, and it's actually going to damage my career to do this, but I'm going to do it because I've spent probably 4 decades grooming myself into just the top of the food chain.
All right, and we're going to start with number 5.
This one goes out to a very particular sort of action figure collector, but Transformers in car lots.
And this tip actually is very similar to other items. It's just the fact that Transformers are being missold in a car lot.
You're going to see the reoccurring theme in this top 5 list is really getting in the mind of a seller who's made a mistake or who doesn't know what they're selling, because that's where you really get the amazing deals, right?
Taking advantage of a seller who doesn't know what they have.
Capitalizing on the mistakes of somebody who's listing it is always going to get you the biggest reward on eBay. And good boys get the prize. The Transformer lot phenomenon is something I've seen happen over the years in that it's kind of 2 different worlds, like die-cast car collectors and toy collectors. And oftentimes, die-cast collectors are selling these big lots and they may or may not know what every single car is. And I have consistently had tremendous luck with finding, some of the smaller Transformer figures, put into a lot, a big pile of cars, when they could have listed that separately and made, quite a bit of change for themselves. But because the seller didn't know and didn't recognize or try to transform the car, it kind of just, was waiting out there to be capitalized on.
And sometimes it actually comes out to be cheaper than to buy the whole lot just for this 1 or possibly 2 Transformer pieces than to just getting it individually sold by someone who knew what they had.
Yeah. I just remembered, this happened to me when it came to Monsters in My Pocket and Muscle Men. Oh. Somebody had listed a big lot of what they thought was Muscle Men, and there were a couple Monster in My Pocket figures, but then, sure enough, in the center of the lot, I noticed a dark green outline. Now, the dark green Monster in My Pocket were cereal premiums, and they're super hard to come by.
Not in stores.
Not in stores. And sure enough, I bought the lot. It was a very grainy picture. I wasn't quite sure what it would be. And sure enough, it was Blemier, which is one of the rarest Monsters in My Pocket, and it was pine-colored, it was beautiful, and it was mine. Number 4 is searching by maker and year, not the specific name of the action figure line.
That's right.
The best example of this is a very obscure line that I like to collect called Spyro-Zone, made by Tonka. These are essentially, I'll be honest with you, these are like dolls, right?
Yeah, they have cloth.
They have cloth clothing. I love the line. It's very goofy now by today's standards, but I love it. The thing is, they're very expensive. So if you type in Tonka Spyro-Zone, you're going to see a single figure is going to go for upwards of $40.
Even more, yeah.
It gets a little cost prohibitive. But there's a lot of sellers out there that don't necessarily know Spyro-Zone because it's such a weird and obscure line. They may not have the packaging for the figure. So I started searching, Tonka, who's the manufacturer, and I think 1987, which is the date. All of this information, of course, is in the trademark line, which many figures have on the inner thigh or the butt.
Or the boot.
Or it's tampo printed on the boot.
Yeah.
Again, you kind of want to get in the mind of a seller who may or may not know what this item is. And I find that the date and the manufacturer can be just a gold mine for picking up stuff super cheap.
This tip is actually very similar to the previous one, and you can actually take it a step further and actually scan other categories, because a seller may know that they have a toy or action figure, but say they're selling a similar listing and their, for whatever reason, is defaulted somewhere else. Like, there's so many toy listings under collectibles and hobbies, but there's also like vintage or like Japanese collectibles or anime figures. So just checking out those things is definitely a great tip.
There's a lot of sellers out there that have a different discipline, right? They may be antique dealers and they may come across toys and action figures or collectibles and not really know that there's, an action figure category and then all these subsets, which, they may just put it into collectibles. They may put it into model kits when it's an action figure. So I think getting outside of just searching the usual categories that you do is super important for finding great steals.
Number 3.
Searching by era. Now this kind of plays off of number 4 a little bit because you're getting away from the very literal search terms you would normally use. Like I use 80s and 90s, right?
Yeah.
I think those are such great tags because that's primarily the eras that I collect toys and comic books from. So I'll throw out, 80s lot, 90s lot. And I'll go under different categories and kind of play with that search term and see what comes up. And I got to tell you, I think most of my great scores have been from searching by the sort of decade in which it was created.
And if you want to have an extra finer search result, you can actually search by just the year. Like 80s, 90s is great, but why not search 98 and see what comes up? 99, you might actually find something more specific.
I come across Power Ranger figures all the time. And it's a Power Ranger figure just kind of by the aesthetics of it. But, I'm not well versed in the different varieties like Space Patrol and Normal Donuts and Prehistoric Combat Waffles and all the different, iterations of Power Rangers. So oftentimes I'll just look at the trademark line, punch in the year. I know it's made by Bandai. Boom. Gets to the results.
You can actually take a step further and not search Bandai and just search Japanese, search anime.
Search impeachment process.
You can also search just the manufacturing area like China, Japan, US.
For the first time in a long time, I'm driving a car again. Since I got the prosthetic legs and they work great, cybernetic enhancement. And so I'm actually finding myself buying CDs lately, which is very odd. And I've kind of limited myself only to buying CDs at tag sales.
Okay.
But I'm trying to, I would love to get all the Nine Inch Nails CDs, I'd love to get all the Tool CDs. Led Zeppelin's not readily available on streaming always, so I'd like to get those CDs. Bare Naked Ladies, like when is it never a good time to throw on a little BNL CD. I'm a fan, so I know the acronym. So I have sort of fought the urge to go on eBay and look up the last couple Nine Inch Nails or Radiohead albums that I'm missing, because it feels like I have to experience in person as a nice surprise.
Number 2, weird and unknown.
So I am truthfully peeling back the veil here and giving you guys my biggest secret.
This is number 2.
This is only number 2.
Yeah.
Weird and unknown are amazing search terms for finding stuff below market value. And I'll just search them by themselves. Punch in unknown, and I'll see what Lady Luck has for me.
A lot of sellers just, again, do not know what they have, and they don't know how to label what they have. So their default adjective is weird or unknown. Like, weird action figure, unknown car.
It's important to get in the mind of a layman and explore the weird and the unknown. Number 1.
Misspelling.
This is absolutely the biggest tip if you want to be a sort of power buyer and you really want to hustle in this world. Think of all the ways a word or a toy line name or a comic book could be misspelled.
Yes.
Because I have found some absolute gold this way. Like, I really love Advanced Dungeons & Dragons by LJN. It's a great sort of toy line from the 80s. And it's just one of those things where people misspell dungeon a lot. Yeah. I think I would probably, if you put a gun to my head, I don't know if I could spell it.
D-U-N-J.
D-O-J, onion.
Onion, yes. Dungeon.
So that's a great example. Look at every possible combination of a misspelling for the line you're looking for, because a lot of times people just aren't doing that.
Yeah.
They are now that they've seen this video.
That's true. All the previous tips that we had mentioned today, apply the misspelling tip to all previous advice. Because you have things in lines like, say, Mattel. M-A-T-E-L-L?
M-E-T-E-L. Yeah. McFarlane. People misspell McFarlane.
And Mick.
Yeah, they misspell it all the time, and that can lead to some great finds.
Also, just take something that has 2 words in it. Say Star Wars. A lot of people will list it without the space.
Transformers. We've seen that a lot of times.
Lego, sometimes they just forget the L and the G. It's just E-O.
Yeah. So there you have it, folks. If you apply our knowledge, you are going to find yourselves to be the highest level of treasure hunters when it comes to eBay. I myself like to visit ebay.com/collectibles once a day.
I go twice a day, at least 3.
I go 4 times.
Oh, I actually meant 5.
I misspoke earlier. What I meant to say was 10 times a day. I'm there.
I like to go 10 times a day, every hour. On the day.
You won this one. Hopefully this helps you find your next toy grail on eBay. We are Toy Pizza. If you like the sound of our voice, which I can't imagine you do, There are hundreds of videos that we've done featuring toys, collectibles, comics, Funko Pop, everything.
Found on eBay. So until next time, pizza out.